So you were where? Fast asleep?
It was an afternoon nap. Went to bed about, I don't know, 2:30, 2:45, something like that. Usually I have an hour and a half.
Right. Well,
Anyway.
tell me all about Ernie Buckley then. What was his full name?
I only remember Ernest Buckley, that's all.
Right, okay.
I suppose I could dig it out from somewhere, I don't know. Anyway.
So what was he like? How tall was he?
I've told you, about an inch shorter than you.
Right.
He wasn't a very tall man, but he was well made. He was solid, square man, you know.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Not over so.
No.
Delicately so.
Right.
And he was extremely dexterous with his hands and that sort of thing, and very accurate and extremely good eyesight, although he did have glasses, but he didn't wear them the whole time. And my first encounter, first of all, his reputation preceded him. When I first started as a gentleman apprentice up there, at the far end of this gallery, that, you know, huge bay,
Yeah.
galleries down both sides. There was a governor job down there, then there was the oil pump job there, and then another thing, and then he was up the other end with about 15 yards of gallery to himself, and he had a mature man and a couple of apprentices, something like that, or two men and an apprentice. That was under him. And he was the charge hand of the injector job, as we call it now, atomizers as he called it. And he was a very treasured jewel in that capacity. Customers from all over the world used to send their atomizers for refurbishment or whatever and ask, please see that Mr. Buckley did this job himself, not his assistants, those kind of letters. And he was so dedicated. And for the nipples, which probably have 4 perforations, 4 drill holes in the nipples, he had a special machine which was German, which he had got from somewhere before the war, and it was like a lathe, about that size, and it had the finest drills that I've ever seen, like a pin, that pin size.
Yeah.
And he used to drill those holes in the metal nipple. He did his own, can't remember the proper expression, bluing, you know?
Yeah, engineer's
blue metal.
Engineer's blue.
Yes, with special oils and certain heats which he knew, and so on and so forth, cherry red or whatever it was, and he used to do his own bluing and that sort of thing. Although the horizontal engines, their injectors were huge blocks of clean steel without any bluing.
Yeah.
Okay, but the vertical engines, they were always blued up stuff.
Right.
I can't remember much more on the job about him, although he seemed to know everything, and people used to come from other departments asking him questions. Not only that, but forgetting the engineering side for a minute, he was, in those days there was no national health insurance.
Yeah.
All right, Hoke? And so people went sick, and if they were sick enough they'd be taken into hospital, but people had to pay for the doctor, pay for this, that, yeah, pay for everything.
Yeah.
And he was the voluntary collector from people of their penny a week or whatever it was. Okay?
Right.
For the whole works. well, or half the works. There were 1,200 people there. Probably he was dealing with the local, the 200 which were in his bay or something like that. But he definitely ran that scheme voluntarily and paid out when he heard that somebody was ill, and so on and so forth.
So he ran a welfare scheme, basically.
Yeah, of his own. Not only that, but he was a very erudite, wide-thinking. His attitude, he was a socialist.
Yeah.
But he was not a virulent labour leader or anything like that. You know, the union, he was a member of it because everybody else was, but he had all the socialist principles. He had all the principles of a good socialist, say somebody like Wilson, the Prime Minister. He had that kind of attitude. In fact, at home, he designed what he considered should be a modern hospital. And he showed me it, and he told me, he said that in those days all doctors were general or whatever. Okay, there were surgeons and there were other doctors, but generally they were in the hospital and they sort of milled around and did each other's jobs and God knows what, I don't know. It wasn't organised like it is today.
Yeah.
And he said there should be specialists for everything. Specialists for ears, specialists for eyes, specialists for this, that and the other. And he drew this plan of a modern, this is in wartime, of a modern Manchester Central Hospital with all the departments, very much like Northern General is today.
Yeah.
Only it was a scheme like this table, not higgledy-piggledy year by year, year on year, like the other.
Adding to it as he went along.
That's right. So, you see, he was that, and his library, I mean, he had the full Encyclopedia Britannica sets, and he was the president of the local philatelic society, in which he got a marvellous collection of 3 albums or something like that. And what he didn't know about philately was nobody's business. He was the president of Ashton-under-Lyne Philatelic. He's just a charge hand, you know. Also, at the same time, he was the president of the photographic of Ashton-under-Lyne. Now, it's quite a big town.
Yeah.
So that is the calibre of the man.
Yeah.
Okay? He had a good sense of humour. He wasn't a drunkard, but he would like, in the latter years, he used to have a half of, what was it called? Like a Guinness, the English equivalent.
Stout.
Pardon?
Stout? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right, stout, that's right. Half of stout. If we went, because the National, when I came home from India early doors in the 50s, the National was still working, although it had been taken over by the Brush Group, if you've ever heard of them.
No.
And it had its own club, and it had its own bowling green, Crown Bowling Green. Now he got to playing bowls.
All right, yeah.
On the Crown game. And when I was over there on my leave, probably once a week or something like that, he'd take me down to the club and we'd sit down and he'd have just his half of stout, yeah. But other than that, he used to have a bottle of whiskey actually at home, which I don't know how frequently, but not more than once in the evening, or if it was a chilly day, he'd take about the equivalent of a small...
Like a shot.
So that was the extent of his intoxication.
Deary me. Smoker?
No smoke. Oh, yeah, smoker, yes. Senior service cigarettes.
Oh, cigarettes, right, okay.
Senior service, the white packet with a blue emblem on it.
Heavy smoker?
Just like my father, about probably 20 a day.
Right.
Might have been 10 a day. But a packet a day, something like that.
Right. That's interesting.
Um,
And what were his hobbies were photography and bowls
philately.
and philately and bowls.
That's right. But photography and philately, he was top man in, you know.
Yeah.
And he was always buying and selling stamps and that sort of thing. He had a marvellous letter, which was in its original envelope, which was written by a soldier in the American Civil War, from the front to his mother. I think it was a young soldier of 18, 19 years of age or something, describing the battle that they just had. Magnificent. God knows what he sold that for.
Oh, he sold it, did he?
Oh yeah, it wasn't. I looked for it when he died.
Oh.
I never asked him, you see, where is it,
Yeah.
before he died.
He's flopped.
But when he died, the books, the albums, oh, that was something else. When he retired, in those days, there was no works pension.
No.
Okay. So, and originally, I don't know whether he fell into the national pension straight away or he had to wait for a year or two before it came in. I don't know. But I do know that he had been building up his stamp collection as an investment.
Yeah.
And so along the years, he sold his stamps, and obviously he sold that that
jewel.
letter. That letter would bring £10,000 today.
Yeah, easily.
In America, probably more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was an interesting letter because I read it. How this boy was suffering from something or other, and wounds, and described the other people around him and what the battle had been like. Anyway. So anyway, that's the background as far as that's concerned. It was his pension, his early doors pension, you see.
Yeah. Right.
And then he'd sold the house, which was his own property.
Right.
He had bought that out, although it was terraced. It was one of the better terraces, rather tall and Victorian. And
what was the address?
Kenyon Street, which was the same street as the National Gas engine was on.
Right, okay. He was dedicated then.
Yeah.
He wanted to live at the National Gas and Oil.
That's right, but he had this, he had breathing, not that you would notice, but he had certain, which eventually I suppose he died from, lung or whatever it was, lung troubles or something of that nature. But it wasn't obvious to me as a young man, until of course we came back from India and we lived with him in Grantham for a short period.
Right.
And then he hard breathing, that sort of thing. It didn't impede him. He was an old man, getting an old man, and it didn't impede him. But he used to cough up a terrific amount of phlegm.
Yeah, 20 fags a day is not going to help, is it?
No. And he used to always have a jar by his bedside in latter years.
To catch the phlegm in and then send it, yeah.
Like a jam jar.
Use it for jam later. Yeah.
So
use it instead of honey.
You want to know as much as I can recall.
How old was he then when you knew him initially? How old would he have been when he was working at?
Well, let me think. He was 6. No, not 6 years. In 74, he was 79. Can you work that out?
Well, that's young then, isn't it? Really, because I was born in 74, so that's 41 years ago. And when did he die? He died not long after that, then.
That's when he died when he was 79 in 74.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. That's right.
So 30 years before that is... Yeah, okay, 44, 40. So he was in his 40s then? He was in his early 40s during the war? If he was...
Yeah, you'd be right. He was
mid-40s.
63, he was 63 in 58. What does that make?
I don't know.
63 and 58.
I've worked.
There you are, 63 and 58. That's 5 years older than the year.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, so
he was
born
5 years older.
1895 he was born, roughly.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
My father was born in 92.
Yeah. So he was 3 years older than your dad.
That's right.
Right. Got you.
No, my dad was 3 years older than him. I'm telling you.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So. And how old was
Beatty?
Yeah. Was she the same age as him?
I should say she was 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Right. Okay. And when did she die?
She died in 79.
Oh, right. Only 5 years after him, then.
That's right. She was, yeah.
So she would have been in her 80s, very early 80s.
Turn of the century she was born. Yeah. So she was 79 when she died here.
Oh, she was
She was just 79 the day she died, the day I went on my first job here to Stanley's.
Oh, God. Right, okay. That was a nice first day out.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting thing. We had brought her over to live here in October, something like that, of the previous year.
Right.
And she died in February, on my birthday, the 1st of February, when I joined Stanley's for the first time.
Well, I remember her sitting here, just by this radiator, by the door, in the rocking chair.
Mm-hmm.
She used to live in that rocking chair, forwards and backwards, But I always thought she was a lot older than that, so she wasn't very old, really, was she, when she died?
No, well, take Joan, for instance, how old she was in comparison to me, yet when we were young, we didn't look that different.
Yeah.
She deteriorated.
Yeah.
So,
Smoking's not good for you.
No, but Beatty did not smoke.
No, but she will have smoked it by passively smoking.
Yeah, well, of course, in the public transport,
yeah.
Or in the factory or whatever. Yeah, terrible. You've no idea what it was like to live in an industrial town in wartime with the stuff coming. You've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
The air was full of it. Everything was black. You can still see buildings around here that are black.
Yeah.
And the impregnation, and it's been washed for 30 years, clean washed for 30 years, and it's still black.
No.
So anyway, going back to Beatty, she originated from Somerset of a farming family.
Right.
Her name was Martin, and on her side, she had a nephew who was Joan's cousin, a male, called Martin, who became a famous caricaturist, and his caricature, this little boy, all right?
Yeah, sitting here.
Okay. Where was I?
Caricature.
Caricature, you know, Daily Mail, I think it was,
yeah.
the big national paper, front page, bottom right-hand corner, every day practically, there was this, you know, this caricature of a joke, political or whatever it was. Well, this boy was, of course, much younger than Joan. He was probably 15 years younger than her or something like this cousin of hers. He joined the Royal Marines as a boy soldier and learnt and marched with the Royal Marines and all that sort of thing, and was a competent musician. But he turned, when he left the forces, he turned into a cartoonist, and he became that famous. In fact, I've got a cartoon somewhere which he did before, when Joan was in England and I was out there, and she was going to come out and marry me, and she was getting her trousseau together, which incidentally included a Singer sewing machine.
Yeah.
okay, with the treadle, the stand.
Yeah, the full job lot.
Yeah, so it came out in a crate like that, right to it, northern India.
On the back of a camel.
Yeah. And so now his caricature,
Yeah.
right, his cartoon,
Yeah.
it's about that size, hand drawn, this, that and the other. And it's more like an African scene than an Indian scene, although it's meant to be tropical, semi-tropical in the background, you know, palm trees and things like that. And there's a long line, like the African, you know, the safaris that they used to have to shoot big game and whatnot,
Yeah.
with all these niggers carrying...
Don't say that word.
No,
They're non-reflective people.
carrying boxes on their
Yes.
heads, you know, the sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he'd got this diminishing size of about 100, I should think, like that, like a serpent.
Carrying all this stuff.
But yeah, all the stuff which was hers, okay,
Yeah.
and she is in front, proudly, with a beautiful ascot hat on and that sort of thing, you know, sun hat, sort of striding ahead, you know.
I understand, yeah.
And it still exists. I saw it a year or two ago, somewhere or another. But that's just to let you know Beattie's background,
Yeah.
as far as I know, from Somerset. Going on to music, I must tell you this.
Go on.
I never told Joan, but I met Joan. She was with this redhead girl and whatnot, and I was smitten. Okay, so started meeting her at the library, and then going to the pictures together and that sort of thing. Well, prior to that, just prior to that, Ernest Buckley, I'd been working for him. And the only time I ever knew him, started talking on a risque type of aspect. Young man like you, he said, you ought to be out with the girls and this, that and the other. You're, young man, you're full of all this titivating, you see. I'm a young apprentice, he's the boss, and he's sort of titillating me that I should go out with girls, and not saying it in so many words, but implying that you know, stick thing where he didn't say anything like that, but that was the implication was you should have a damn good time, and go out with this girl and that girl.
Sow your oats.
Yeah, that was the message.
Yeah.
He never talked in a brace. He never swore or anything like that. But this was what he was playing with me, you see, trying to get the effect. What he didn't know was I was taking his daughter out. When it was disclosed by Joan to him, she said to her mother, and she colluded with her mother. She said this now. The mother knew, and so she said, I think I'd already met the mother. She said, I'm inviting Gerald to tea on Sunday. Now, when he heard that, oh boy,
Oh dear.
he nearly touched the roof.
I bet he did, because he just told us.
Because you see,
Yeah.
he would be thinking.
Yeah,
Anyway, so that's all background stuff.
that's good.
And what else about... No, Ernest Buckley is the main. Now, going back a couple of generations, first of all, Joan's grandfather, Ernest Buckley's father, was a foreman in Joan's sewing machine works.
Right.
So he was an engineer, okay? And we had a clock with a Westminster chime, which we got from Aunt Nellie, which had been granted to him, and it had a silver plaque on it. The silver plaque is still here somewhere, But Joan did the most peculiar things. She'd give things away and all that sort of thing, which I would never have given away. When her mother died and we were selling off this, she sold this lovely clock, beautiful chiming clock. But I unscrewed the bloody silver plaque and got it somewhere or other. And on it it said, you know, on the retirement of, no, what was his Christian name? I can't remember. Ernest's father's Christian name, I can't remember. However, this was to commemorate his service of 40 years or whatever it was, and foreman of the something. So he was an engineer, and he was in control of probably 30 people or something like that, I suppose. Mm. But then going back another 2 generations probably, rather than 1 generation, I don't think it was his father, Ernest's father's father, but possibly his grandfather, was the Mayor of Ashton. Hmm. And I have seen a book where there were 2. One was called Abel Buckley. Right. And he was one of, successively, I think, 2 brothers became mayors of Ashton in the 1880s or something like that. Yeah.
Have you any pictures of Ernest?
No.
No pictures anyway?
No.
That's unusual, isn't it?
Joan had a picture of a group of all her Buckley ancestors who would be equivalent to her grandfather and her grandfather's father probably, and all the ladies all sitting down looking like Queen Victoria. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And where's that gone?
Don't know. I've lost so much.
Oh.
Things that have been valuable to me and Joan have disappeared over the years.
How?
They just disappeared. I don't know. I'll give you an... Right, straight off. I went over to your home a few years ago, and I saw a lacquered jewel box or whatever you call it. And I thought, that's funny. I thought, I'm sure that's one that Iqbal Ahmed, my senior assistant out there, gave to me. It looks exactly like it. So I said to Helen, I said, this box, I said, it looks so familiar. It's exactly the same as one that... She said, yes. She said, Joan gave it to me. Oh. What do you see now, Joan?
She gave a lot away, didn't she?
She would give on impulse, yeah. And she wouldn't tell me, just do it. That's it, gone. So, anyway.
That's why you've got no underpants.
Yeah. So that's about as much as I can tell you really about him. Oh yeah, you said his hobbies. Now, believe it or not, his favourite hobby with Beattie was walking over the Pennines. Yeah. Including Kinder Scout and the lot.
Yeah.
Now, how he did that and still had this chesty thing.
Well, what you'll find is that that would have cleared his chest. Hmm. That's why he did it. He discovered that would actually clear him off, and he could go up there and be a human being.
Yeah, and that's why Joan was so keen. Sunday, what could we do? The only day you got off in wartime was Sunday, and most people on rotation, every other Sunday they were working as well, males. But because I was an apprentice and this, that and the other, I was allowed Sundays off. And so she and I used to go and climb Kinder Scout. What we did were, a couple of times I should think, Went to Duckingfield, if you know that.
Yeah, I do know very well.
Duckingfield.
Very well.
Get off the bus from Ashton-under-Lyne, Duckingfield, and then walk right up the Snake, right up to the very top, and over the top to Snake Inn.
Yeah.
Okay? God knows how far, 10 miles or what? No, 8 miles or something like that. Okay, we get there, go in the pub, I'd have a half a lager and she'd have coffee or something like that. And then we would go across the road and climb over Kinder Scout and right down the other side to Hayfield and walk back to Duckingfield, 21 miles. That was Joan and I's favourite Sunday.
It's a good day out, that, isn't it?
I know people cycle and trot along and all that sort of thing, but 21 miles for a boy and girl as a Sunday treat, just walking. And what we did see on the top of Kinder Scout on 2 occasions, but there were plenty of grouse. Those days, grouse got up in front of you.
Yeah.
But on one occasion, we saw a white hare, completely white.
Wow.
And another time, a wild cat. No longer in it.
No, you're not going to get that now, are you? Wow.
Well, I think I've told you off the top, more or less, a picture.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I shall turn that off now.